Hello, everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today, we're talking to Gencoglu, who is the co-founder and head of AI at Root Signals, which is an LLM eval platform. Greetings, Uz.
Hi, Ben. Nice to be here.
So we always kick things off by asking you to make a few predictions about the AI industry as a whole. So the first one is, how do you see humans and AI collaborating with regard to work in 5 years' time and in 15 years' time?
Okay. I think in 5 years' time, it will be the depth of this collaboration. I don't think it will go extremely fast as some people expect, but the width, meaning that I think more and more people will be accustomed to using AI in everyday work to some level, rather than current, let's say, percentage of employees and people going really deep. I think it will be more wide in the beginning, because we are still kind of in the early stages of this. Well, AI is not early at all, but in some sense for the public, for everybody, it is.
Kind of business adoption, yeah.
Yeah. And I think in 15 years, when this basically base is covered, I think we'll go pretty deep. So to the point that we will have agentic coworkers. So I think that's a solid bet I would put my money on for 15 years. That's a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
scales, yes.
a lot can change. So do you think it'll be a case of kind of, agentic co-workers who are doing kind of wholly autonomous roles on their own, or will we be kind of managing like teams of co-workers?
Yeah, I absolutely envision such a future. So we will be managing some people and some AI, just like how we manage people completely today. And of course, people themselves everybody will be managing some level of AI. I think this will be pretty standard in 10 to 15 years time. For some industries more than the others, obviously. So digital industries are faster to go through this transformation as they are already in digital form. So, but surely in other industries as well.
And where do you see us being on the AGI timeline? I mean, you can put your own definition on that, but do you see it as being something that's getting close or still a long way away?
Definitely longer way than, I would say, what you see on the news from this foundational lab CEO's predictions. So I would double that. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb. If Sam Altman is predicting something, at least double that. But it's not like I don't see it. I see it in my lifetime, surely. So something in between, maybe 20 to maybe about 20 to 25 years, I would say.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of the global economy, how do you see that being shaped by AI? Do you think we're going to see more wealth inequality, or are we going to narrow gaps in opportunity and bring everybody up?
Unfortunately, I think in the short run, the discrepancy between, let's say, low income people and high income people, or high wealth, let's say, that's more a better word, I think it will increase. So I think inequality will increase in the short term. So there will be this sort of a bit painful transition where, until the point that, in my opinion, we can't ignore the fact that we have to create some sort of basic income model otherwise this whole thing will collapse. So I think usually we realize it a bit too late, so lots of pain is inflicted on people, but I'm sure some form of basic income will have to come to prevent other sorts of bigger problems. So I see this inevitable. I don't know exactly what form would that be, but yeah.
I saw an interview with Sam Altman the other day, and he's saying he doesn't like the term basic income. He wants it to be extreme income. Everybody should get extreme income from AI. So we'll have to see if that ever happens.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever you want to call that, but in some form, I think it will be more costly not to have something like that in terms of all kinds of structure of the society, let's say.
Yeah. Okay. So before we jump into root signals, could you just give us an introduction to yourself, kind of your background through research science into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Oz. So I'm coming from research background, studied machine learning, computer science back then. That was a long time ago. I co-founded one AI startup. We got acquired in 2018 by a Japanese company. Back then, it was this deep learning craze. Still, we were pretty early in many things we did back then. When I look back, then I did a bit of and still do some one-man advisory, advising OECD AI and a couple of organizations, startups, different kind of companies. And then about 2 years ago, I co-founded Root Signals, where we focus on how to measure stuff regarding Gen AI. Yeah, and that's I'm head of AI there. That's what I spend most of my time on.
And what was the kind of problem that you set out to solve with root signals?
Well, I did quite some research on NLP, in general, machine learning, deep learning, and it's obvious that when we look at the bitter lesson, this is the famous bitter lesson in AI, that compute is what matters in the long run, and this whole thing scales. It's bitter, especially for researchers, because what matters is compute in the long run. So what that meant was that whenever there's some kind of a improvement or some kind of a leap, let's say ChatGPT, or maybe GPT-2 was actually one of the first kind of, okay, this is really interesting kind of moment. It was obvious that there'll be a lot of people realizing this, and there will never be one company or one large language model. That was the one, let's say, point where it hinted that, hey, there will be a lot of large language models, and it will be easier to fine tune and all that. But which one is better for my use case? I don't know. You don't know either. So we need to compare. To be able to compare two things, we need to measure that. Then the second point was that hinted to this problem of how to measure stuff was, well, the whole concept of prompt. So the instruction, because traditional non-generative models, we call them discriminative models, there's no prompt. So if you didn't have that problem, or that kind
more
of
deterministic previously.
Yeah, it was. But now there's this semantic guidance that we call prompt. Everything depends on that. That's like massive complexity in terms of building reliability. In terms of just traditional software engineering, it's basically a nightmare. So you need to measure that, especially now you need to measure when you don't know what is coming in production. And third is just there's this non-determinism in large language models. You sample from some probability space, and that's the third nightmare for any kind of reliable system. So everything hinted to the point that we need to measure stuff, otherwise we are just building hobbyist proof of concepts and demos, but we need to measure stuff. So that's how the idea came behind root signals, and that's what we've been working on since then.
And how is your approach different from other kind of eval tools in the space? I was reading earlier about the kind of LLM as judge
Yeah.
kind of that you have, which is kind of seem quite novel.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of tools, open source or proprietary, they have some kind of I would say baggage even, and baggage in the sense that maybe they were let's say MLOps platforms, they were doing all sorts of other things, and when LLMs came, they tried to retrofit their product and provide these metrics. But if you look at their metrics, these are old school stuff like below scores, root score. It was like comparing some embeddings and these sort of metrics that just cannot capture the complex things we want to measure in our LLM applications. In our LLM application, I want to know how is my, let's say I build a chatbot, is it complying with my company communication policy? Is it talking about my competitor? Is it a bit salesy but not too salesy? Is it polite? Is it concise? Not like overly concise. These are really complex metrics and I really care about them. Is it hallucinating? All kinds of things like that. And the only way to capture, to measure these metrics as we know today is using another LLM specifically tuned and trained to perform evaluations. So this is called LLM as a judge. So we are utilizing, deploying AI large language models tuned and prompted to measure, to judge, to evaluate, to oversee your main model's responses. We just do not see any other way how you can capture these complex measurements and metrics at root signals. We think this is the only way, only scalable way other than humans looking at every single response, obviously.
So you've built and trained your own model from scratch, is that right?
We have a we indeed have a large language model we trained with this Lumi supercomputer with hundreds of GPUs, which we open sourced also. Anybody can download that. We serve that in our platform, but we also provide an extremely easy way to create LLM judges, tune them, calibrate them from any LLM in our platform. So both open source and proprietary, we provide a systematic way so that any LLM can be instructed and also tested to become a judge, specifically performing in certain application, and our users can also optimize this evaluation cost, evaluation latency, and evaluation capability or evaluation performance accuracy, these three dimensions in a couple of lines of code or in our application.
And how do you answer, obviously your model is probabilistic and kind of using that probabilistic system to monitor and measure another probabilistic system, like how does that kind of give you accurate results?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because anybody who asks that question, it means they just get it. And the question is simply maybe I am claiming, or we are claiming LLMs are unreliable, you need to measure. And now, how does it make sense? We put another unreliable thing on top of that to be able to monitor that. And the answer to that is a couple of fold, like twofold, threefold. One is because of that very reason, we think it's extremely important that these LLM judges you build, for example, at root signals, you should be able to test them and evaluate them. You can think of it as meta evaluation. You should be able to trust your measurement device itself. Otherwise, what's the point? You should be able to evaluate the evaluator. And we provide one click or 2 lines of code to perform that. So this is our answer to that. So no system is perfect. And anybody who claims that, of course, is full of it. But we provide a systematic way to calibrate your evaluator performance and its behavior to your expectations. I want my, let's say, policy compliance evaluator to perform this manner. You bring a couple of examples, and we make sure your compliance evaluator works as you intend to do, so that it's between your, let's say, the evaluation results are between your expected confidence intervals, and we provide our confidence intervals, which to my knowledge no other evals platform does. So they just give point scores. We also give confidence intervals. Third, we don't only give scores, just numbers. We also give the reasoning and justification why we gave that score. And this is pretty important, because if you think about it, let's say you used our hallucination detection. If we gave some 0 or 1 or just some numerical number, what are you going to do with that? So what?
Yeah.
But we give literally a report why it hallucinated, so you can easily pass that to try again, or let your agent or application fix the thing it just failed on. So there's no single answer to that, but we build our platform, our features to capture and eliminate as much as possible this problem of evaluators are LLMs themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So shifting away from that kind of black box evaluator, if you like, which kind of a lot of the other tools in the market seem to be.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, like you mentioned earlier, kind of a lot of MLOps companies kind of shifting into this space, and there are other companies, more in the kind of governance or security space, kind of shifting into the eval space. Do you think the market will kind of move towards kind of broader monitoring stacks, or do you think this topic is so crucial and so important that you need kind of specific kind of eval or observability tools?
I think for some players, if they have, let's say for some mid-sized companies, if they have been building some ML stuff and they have their favorite ML tool, I guess it will be fine with some basic tools if they are building bunch of internal productivity increasing applications with LLMs. I think these platforms, MLOps platforms, now they provide more like LLM ops or observability stuff. I think that will be enough. But in our hypothesis and in our opinion, if your product, customer facing features, is relying on an LLM, then there are levels to this evals, and that's where mostly we are like aiming at. It's kind of difficult to think of retrofit your existing monitoring dashboard to have, let's just have another metrics. As I explained, we start from evals first. We start from LLM as a judge first, like the whole ontology and whole thing from day one has been built upon that, and they build upon the fact that, well, LLM as a judge means their judges are non-deterministic, as you said. You need to have confidence in like there's a lot of thinking behind this kind of proper hardcore evals platform for serious product development companies that their product is heavily relying on an LLM. So I think it will be a bit of both, depending on the use case. But I don't see companies like us. Well, there are successful other companies, startups like us. I don't see all of them disappearing and eaten away by some, let's say, AWS observability or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't see that. Yeah.
A lot of companies kind of look at eval as a post-deployment concern. Do you think that that's okay, or do you think they need to kind of shift their mindset and bring that much earlier in the development lifecycle?
You know what? we have experienced in, let's say, last 6 months is that indeed people start from that perspective. Because it's so easy to build something nowadays. You literally you can just wipe code your way. It's so easy to build a quick demo, and then people, of course, naturally want to quickly build something. They just want to see something first, and then ask, "Hey, look, I can't just deploy this. This is making stuff up. I need to measure that." And it's post deployment, or at least post development. But there's another trend that we have realized is um, people who went through this in their, let's say, first deployment, and they did some evals online or offline, they realize, hey, all these LLM evaluation, or they are text evaluators, they don't need to only evaluate LLM responses. You can evaluate your existing 20 years of documents written by humans to using the same methods and same, let's say, LLM judges and all kinds of these things to increase the quality of your data, either model training data or indeed, or just like quality of what is going to the context, let's say, to your RAG systems and stuff. So you can do a pre-filter of all of your data with the very same methodologies on metrics and evaluators, and shift your mindset indeed a bit to the just like measuring, hey, what kind of data do we have? Like in our, let's say, there's an enterprise, a massive amount of data, mostly produced by humans over the last 30 years, let's say. Hey, you can measure all that, and you can categorize, create metadata out of it, and all sorts of things like that. So it's shifting, I think. It's shifting more also. Hey, should we do this measurements before anything?
Before you even start building?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And, working with different types of companies, you'll have seen lots of different workflows and kind of ways of working. Are there particular model types or architectures which are more kind of makes observability harder than others?
Yeah. Maybe from a, let's say, LLM application architecture, even though it's quite common, RAG is slightly more complicated to observe, to actually. Why? Even though it might be the most common use case, right? So you just have some documents and you want to chat with them, because there's this context, there's this retrieval part where you need to find, which is like before LLM sees anything, right? And how do you measure that? And it's not necessarily, it's a bit more traditional retrieval metrics from last 50 years and this sort of stuff. Because if the LLM can't get the correct context, well, there's not much it can do. And then when you go deeper, there's the document types, and like, let's say there are tables and all kinds of images and maybe audio and all kinds of things like that, maybe some structured, some unstructured. How do you know your RAG application hits the correct stuff in terms of retrieval and stuff like that? So it's a bit interesting that that's the most common use case, but it's a bit more difficult to measure than just simple question answering bot. And for the neural network architectures, which is like changing relatively often, I don't think it matters much. You just have some response. It's more difficult to deploy some architectures on some hardware and stuff like that, but in terms of observability, semantic metrics, there's no difference between, let's say, a Mamba based architecture or some other types of, let's say, mixture of experts or anything like that.
And when we think about like the data generation companies, like synthetic data, is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Does that have any impact on observability?
It does, in the sense that you can simulate a lot of things before going to production and realizing your system sucks. So, which is the synthetic data part, right? So, I think most people think synthetic data is just like, oh, it's synthetic training data for, if I, let's say, want to fine tune my finance LLM. I need some real data and some synthetic data and stuff like that. But most companies do not fine tune any. Definitely, they don't train from scratch, but they don't even fine tune LLMs. But I see much broader impact of synthetic data from a test and evals perspective. So, because nowadays you can create synthetic simulations of agents acting as users, agents acting as even as a whole society or population of people. You can run synthetic A/B tests. Literally, you can simulate 100, let's say, a community, different personas, and that's all synthetic data to me. Any kind of simulation of that sort. So, and that has an impact to observability, that you realize what you should measure beforehand with the synthetic simulations and synthetic data part. Because at Root Signals, we realized, even though you can provide the best evaluators, LLMs, judges out there, and people don't know, and this is natural, people don't know what to measure until you put things into production. Of course, okay, helpfulness, hallucination and stuff, some basic answer relevant stuff, but you go to production and look how your users interact, and look how your LLMs response, and then realize, oh damn, this is a bit weird. Like, I should measure this. Like, I've never seen, like, from the get-go, hey, I need this 18 metrics and that's it. Nobody knows all of that beforehand. So you need to kind of you need to look at it, go to production and deploy and look at it. So synthetic data helps that before maybe even going to production, you can realize, oh, we should probably measure this conciseness is talking too much, or whatever that is.
And in terms of the process of building root signals, like versus like the other startup that you were involved with, like what's been the kind of hardest thing about building the company so far, do you think?
In my previous startup, we had a lot of also this kind of consulting and project business where we spinned off various technologies. So it didn't start as a pure, let's say, products, SaaS, traditional startup like that. So it was quite different in that sense. But at Root Signals, maybe the most difficult thing is to say no, to leave money on the table, because people ask, hey, can you come and help us measure or evaluate, like basically consultancy work, good money, but we just don't do that because there's no time for that, and we need to focus. So we can't just we would be dead by now if we did all that sort of one-off work. We need to build a product. So we have to say no, and there are really interesting stuff. I would love to, like, as an advisor or a consultant, go and fix stuff, but this has been a bit. I expected this, but it has been more common than people want you to handhold. Some expert come and
need help as much as anything else.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you've had to change your mind about, like since you started the company?
Maybe not from a technology perspective. I knew this would scale, and I still believe this will scale. meaning that I don't believe AI is slowing down. It's not AI development is not getting ridiculously fast either. It's been I wrote a technical blog post about this, like analyzing last 4 decades of basically AI progress, and I still believe it will continue. So in that sense, my mind hasn't changed in terms of technical stuff. But I thought this measurement, I'm not even talking about like LLM evals. In general, I'm building something. How do I know if it's good enough? Like forget anything. It can be it doesn't even have to be software. How do I measure this? I thought this was obvious, but it's slower than I expected. So it doesn't come naturally to many people. I realized you really have to explain. No, you need to measure stuff. That maybe I changed my mind. I was like thinking, yeah, of course people would immediately think, hey, I'm building all kinds of things. I need to measure, but not really, not really.
So there's kind of more of an education piece than you were
Yeah,
anticipating. I guess
yeah,
that's probably partly down to the fact that so many people are focusing on building internal tools for a lot of the kind of recent years, and now kind of more moving into kind of looking at those external tools where they realize they can't make mistakes. I suppose people don't mind making mistakes with their own employees, maybe. So.
maybe. I don't know. I still don't know the exact reason, but maybe it's several reasons. But indeed, this educational part, I thought we would go through that for 6 months, but no, still people are surprised tools like root signals exist. So yeah, they haven't heard about us or our competitors, or so they are surprised. Oh, can you measure that? Can you detect hallucinations? So that has been that, and that's still going on. So that has been slower than I expected.
When you think about like go-to-market strategy, like for root signals, do you see it as more, akin to kind of dev tools, like so thinking about community building and DevRel and that type of thing, or are you seeing this as more like an enterprise monitoring, sales kind of top-down approach?
Maybe a bit more the first one, but not like a complete clear cut, because we have some enterprise customers, but at least we started from that, but we are shifting more towards dev tool mindset, self-service, pip install, 30 seconds you get something running, documentation, examples, community slowly building. So it's been shifting more towards that. That's at least the focus has been on lately, more like dev tool kind of GTM for root signals.
And do you focus more on kind of startups, kind of building AI applications, or are you focusing more on enterprise customers, or are you trying to balance those two?
We are focusing on faster companies. They typically tend to be small and mid-sized.
Mm-hmm.
We have, of course, bunch of network where we get some enterprise customers, but our focus has been more on we don't care about the size, but the focus has been speed, because we just can't wait for people to develop for 6 months something and then come back, hey, okay, let's now talk. 6 months is like eternity in a
In AI
AI
world.
startup. So they should already we work really closely with really fast companies, tend to be startups often. They just build every day deploy like us, and we are really close. They complain, we fix. So close feedback loops, design partners and paying customers like that. So it's not about size, but indeed the speed and iteration iteration loop speed. I think that's the critical part, so that we learn. We need to develop the correct things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, been great having you on today. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way to reach you? Are you on kind of LinkedIn or X? Where do you spend most of your time?
I'm on LinkedIn. Maybe I should be a bit more active there, but anybody can reach me, always Gencoglu, from LinkedIn, or you can of course go to rootsignals.ai and give it a shot. Quickly, it will take 30 seconds to sign up and get free evaluation demos, and all the evaluators are accessible already on the free tier. So that would be the easiest way.
Great stuff. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you to everybody watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming soon.